The newest trailer for the second Five Nights at Freddy's movie just dropped, and that made me wonder if this movie will actually have learned anything from its predecessor's mistakes. Oh, and yeah, by the way, if you were wondering, this is my new setup. I quite like it, to be honest with y'all. Sorry that I haven't made any videos recently, I had some stuff going on in my life. Liar! But now that I have moved out and that I have dealt with some stuff, I am ready to make videos again. So if you guys like what you see and want to support me in any way possible, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, leave a like or dislike if you want. And with all that yapping said, let's start this video. Spoilers alert for the FNAF 1 movie and the FNAF 2 trailer. Growing up with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise was something quite special. This franchise is not like anything I've ever seen before. This is such a unique franchise that was created by a twisted but smart mind. Something that really fascinates me is how scary the FNAF video games are. Well, at least the first ones.
Gregory, have you ever heard of Among Us?
And so when the first FNAF movie came out in theaters in October of the year 2023, I was so excited to go watch that movie from one of my favorite franchises of all time. When I stepped out of the theaters with my friends though, I think we all wanted to just erase what we saw from our minds. You see, in my opinion, I think this movie has many flaws. This movie didn't reach me as much as the video games did, and I get it. It's challenging to adapt this, originally, video game franchise into a movie saga. Yeah, there's a lot of materials available to get inspired from, but the problem is that movies and video games are not the same medium. You see, the Five Nights at Freddy's video game franchise has its qualities that can only be experienced by playing the video games. What are they, would you ask? Well, this is the part of the video where I talk about what I loved from the FNAF video games created by Cawthon. What I like from the video games is that it's a great mix of fun, fear, and mysteries. You see, at first, when you look at this franchise, you're like, what the f is that? Is that made for children or something? But the more you play and the more you go look for lore, the more shocked you will be. On the surface, it might just look like a quick little game with funny looking animatronics trying to stuff your body into another animatronic. The thing is, the hidden story of this franchise is darker than that. And notice the keyword I used here, hidden, because the FNAF story is not a linear story. The entire lore of the FNAF franchise is hidden through Easter eggs and secrets inside the games, which made many fans theorize on what the story is actually about. Since 2014, the story has been kept secret by its creator and left for the fans to discover and make their own story based on the information left in the game. And so, not everyone has the same idea of what the FNAF story is about, even if the community agrees on some key details throughout the games.
Was that the bite of 87?
No.
This franchise is also known for how scary it is. It is, obviously, a horror franchise, but how does it succeed at that? Well, in my opinion, FNAF is scary for many reasons. As the player, you are limited with what you can do. You cannot move around to do tasks. Well, at least in the first games. You are obligated to stay still at the same place and survive. What's also scary about that is how stressful the games are. You don't see what's coming at you. Yes, you have tools to help you, but when the animatronics are moving towards you, they jump scare you when you least expect it. The ambience of these games is also a big factor contributing to its scary aspect. The visuals are a great mix of colors and darkness. The sound design is also creepy because of how quiet it is. You can hear some background noises, but that's all. So when you hear one, you wonder if it's an animatronic moving or not, which makes the players stress even more. And finally, another thing that makes this franchise scarier for me are the designs of some animatronics. My best examples here are the withered animatronics from FNAF 2. Just look at them. Don't tell me you don't find them scary with the missing parts on their body and their creepy look. So yeah, these were some of the aspects that made this franchise scary for me. Now, with all that said, did Blumhouse, the company behind the movie adaptation of this franchise, do a great job at making a scary and thrilling movie? Well, here's the part of the video where I talk about what I think went wrong with the FNAF movie. So, like I said previously, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was not perfect. Mistakes were obviously made. Let's start with my biggest issue with this movie, the glowing eyes. Yes, I am one of the many snowflakes that actually hated the glowing eyes and thought that it ruined the entire horror in this movie. Yes, you can boo me as much as you want. I am guilty as shit here. I understand the significance of the eyes, because when they're red, that means that the animatronics are in goblin mode. But the thing is, it's so goofy that it made the animatronics not scary at all. It's kind of a distraction to me. It made the animatronics too predictable too, with their emotions and intentions. Because you know that when their eyes are red, they want to kill you. Another problem that I have with this movie is the lack of gore. I feel like Blumhouse tried to make this movie kind of family friendly, so the age rating could be the lowest possible. And so, they sacrificed the gore scenes by cutting off quickly right before the gore would happen. There are some exceptions, obviously. But I think they did too many cuts at the last minute. I already can hear some of y'all telling me that a movie doesn't need gore to be scary, and yeah, I would agree with that. But it still adds some uneasy feelings while you watch it, which is something that I think the FNAF franchise always did right. Another problem that I have with this movie are the jump scares. You see, the FNAF franchise is based on jump scares. But what I think makes the video game's jump scares way scarier is the fact that they're unpredictable. You don't know when they'll happen, and that makes you stress more. In the FNAF movie, I think they used the usual jump scare formula used in other mainstream horror movies. Silence, then close-up jump scare. I think the movie industry recently moved on from that formula and started using more psychological horror strategies, which I fully support. Sadly, on rare occasions, the FNAF movie used psychological horror, which is such a shame in my opinion, because it has the potential to be really scary by using this method. Another problem that I have with this movie is how poorly used some of the characters were. Aunt Jane was an antagonist for the Mike and Abby relation until she fucking died on the floor, and nobody seemed to even care about that at the end of the movie. William Afton appeared at the beginning of the movie as another character, but never was mentioned again until the last night at Freddy's.
I am just trying to figure out who you are, Mr. Michael
But the movie can't seem to give a shit about him for 80% of the movie. Vanessa, in my opinion, is the most non-believable police officer ever. Like, she's staying at Freddy's all night and yapping with Mike while being on the job. Imagine the people calling the police for help, and there's just Vanessa avoiding her job so she can instead build a fort with animatronics. Another problem that I have with this movie is how unbelievable, in general, this movie is. I think the events, the dialogues, and some of the characters of this movie are not believable enough. It feels like we're watching a student film, honestly. And I think this problem comes from the writing department and the artistic direction department. I think the actors did a nice job at portraying their characters. It's just that the energy around this movie feels weird. There's not much natural light, the settings feel fake, the characters have weird motives, etc. Another problem that I have with this movie are the animatronics. Visually, they don't feel pretty real, and compared to the games, they look less scarier. Also, at some point, they became friendly, which just ruined the scary aspect of these animatronics for me, honestly. They were so goofy in this movie, oh my god. Another problem that I have with this movie is the amount of fan service there is. I feel like this movie is just there to drop references back to back without telling a compelling story. Oh, especially the I always come back scene. That one is a hard watch for me.
I always come back.
I also feel like the story is too vague and mysterious for a movie. In the video games, it works because the story is not the most important aspect of this media. It's the gameplay. In a movie, there is no gameplay. It's mostly a story. So you have to put the effort into that, which is something that Scott usually does by hiding story information in Easter eggs. But in this type of media, it doesn't work like that. I also feel like there are some unfinished intrigues in this movie. For example, I think the Golden Freddy intrigue was too random. If you introduce a concept in the movie, I'm expecting you to make sense of it in the same movie. But here, it just feels too random. We are left with questions, as usual with Scott. By the way, I love you, Scott. Please don't send police to my house. The climax of this movie also didn't feel worth the watch for me. It was not satisfying enough, and they fucking ruined the spring lock failure scene. It was so goofy and unbelievable. I did not come out of this movie as a new man. I came out with disappointment. Another problem that I have with this movie is that the characters that are getting killed off are characters that the viewers do not care about. I want to feel emotions when I see people dying in front of me, because most of the time, I do not give a single shit about these dead characters. Killing off likable characters would have made the viewers more engaged with these scenes, because you don't want these characters to die, so you want them to run away. But also, if it's at the beginning of the movie, and if it helps the viewers to understand how dangerous the animatronics are, well, in this case, I think it's fine. Finally, one last problem that I have with this movie are the elements of horror that weren't used enough. For example, that last Freddy scream was chilling, honestly. I don't know why they didn't use it more. And Chica walking in the background in the kitchen was also quite scary. I feel like this type of horror also should have been used more in this movie. And so, with all that said, let's see if the FNAF 2 trailer gives me hope for the future of this franchise. And so, I just rewatched the FNAF 2 trailer, and here are the things that actually gives me hope for the future of this franchise. First of all, in my opinion, I think the animatronic characters look way better in this second movie. The toy version, the withered version, I think they all look fantastical. The toy animatronic don't look particularly menacing, but at least they look good. And the withered animatronics look way scarier than the animatronics from the first movie. Another thing that I like from this trailer is that it gives the impression that the relation between the characters will be stronger. For example, Mike and Vanessa are seemingly going on a date? Hey yo, imagine if turns out, alright, plot twist, they are brother and sister. That would be the modern version of Luke and Leia. But whatever, I'm getting off track here. The fact that they also recognize that they just lived some fucked up shit is great, because I feel like they moved on from this pretty quickly at the end of the first movie.
I think we've come pretty far, considering what we've been through.
Well, no fucking shit.
Another thing that I like from this trailer is the fact that the animatronics are now outside the restaurants. I think that if they stayed in their comfort zone, this movie would have been the same shit as the first one. And so, I appreciate that they leveled up their game. Finally, one last thing that gives me hope for this movie is some of the horror details. The shot where the puppet is behind Vanessa is actually something that I like, and same goes for when it's over her. It's not a straight jump scare, it's more of a stressful element, and I think the first movie misses some of that. So, if the second movie is able to do more of that, I think the movie will be way scarier than its predecessor. And so, that's pretty much the only things that give me hope for this film. I will not say though, that I wish that we become attached to the group of 4 people in the beginning of the trailer, because I think they will be used in the beginning of the movie to set the tone and show how dangerous the animatronics are. Now, with all that said, here are the things that I don't like from this trailer. First of all, I think you know what I'm going to mention first, but the glowing eyes are back. I think it would have been weird if they weren't back. Honestly, the animatronics are now unfortunately obligated to have glowing eyes to keep the continuity between these movies believable. But I've seen some edits online where people removed the glowing eyes from Withered Chica, and that made her way scarier to me. Which makes me stand my point about the glowing eyes in the first place. Another thing that I dislike from this trailer is that the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza restaurant looks fake. I think it's the same reason as in the first movie. These sets are obviously fake.
They were fake.
Of course they were fake!
They're not real restaurants, and it's difficult to dive into this movie when you know the sets are fake. Finally, the last thing that I found goofy in this trailer are the jump scares. In this case, it's all my fault, because I just find the usual trailer formula for horror movies so old now. And this trailer is not different from that. The screaming cut fast, the fast sequences of horror elements, the sudden sound effects with text on screen, these elements from the trailer made the movie look goofy to me, kind of. But like I said, it's all my fault here. And so, let's jump into the conclusion of this video. Do I think this movie will learn from its predecessor's mistakes? To be quite frank, it's hard to tell if FNAF 2 learned anything from FNAF 1 just by watching its first trailer that lasts only minutes and a half. There are some things that look exactly like the bad elements from the first movie, like the glowing eyes and the obvious fake sets, but I actually think it also improved in some aspects. The animatronics look way better here. The horror looks less like a jump scare marathon, let's say, and the main characters look to have a stronger relation than in the previous movie. So overall, I'm pretty sure this movie will be received the same way that the previous movie was received. But do I think it will be better in some aspects? Yes, I think it will. But don't get me wrong here. The movie is still gonna be mid for sure. What do you guys think of the trailer? Tell me in the comment section down below your opinion on this matter. Leave a like or dislike if you want. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!